Hi, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thank you for tuning in to Bennington Works. My name is Summer, I am a senior, and I'll be walking you guys through how I completed my advanced work at Bennington. So, to put all of this into a little bit of context, my plan at Bennington involves a combination of social psychology, visual arts, and public action. And I arrived at this after completing two internships, one with a art studio in Baltimore that specifically worked with artists with disabilities, and a community arts center in Watertown, Massachusetts. And through my work with these two organizations, I realized that I was really interested in how people negotiate their psychological vulnerability through the creative process and the power of art as a tool for social engagement, community inclusion, and discourse. And so that was the foundation for my plan. But I didn't really know how my advanced work was going to turn out until my sixth term, where I took a social psychology class titled Narrative Trauma and Bearing Witness. Through this class, I was introduced to the work of Judith Lewis Herman, who basically devised a trauma recovery model that argues that the survivor of trauma needs to be able to effectively mourn their loss and reflect on that to create a narrative in which they are the survivor, to be able to move on from the experience and fully reintegrate into society. And so this model is basically my theoretical foundation for my first advanced work, which is a thesis in society, culture, and thought titled, and this is going to be a mouthful, Artworks, an exploration into the role of visual art in trauma recovery. And I basically made the idea that because art extensively uses symbolism in its expression, it is an optimal place for survivors of trauma to be able to safely remember and re-narrate their post-trauma narratives and to reconstruct their shattered sense of self. In my second part of that thesis, I also used John Dewey's philosophy, who argued that art should be considered a lived practice, and made the case that if the survivor of trauma continues to create art after they have reconstructed the narrative, they will be able to fulfill kind of a survivor mission, and through this public action, reintegrate into society. And I cited several socially engaged art projects to prove this point. So the second part of my advanced work I knew was going to be in public action. But initially I wanted to work with a local organization in Bennington to kind of solidify the theoretical thesis that I wrote. But I also realized that there's a need for me to put what I've learned in the US into the context of my home country, Vietnam, which I eventually want to go back to and work in. So I actually went home and worked with two independent art organizations. They are both grassroots organizations, and they did not serve a marginalized or disadvantaged community in particular, but their goal was to basically promote contemporary arts in Vietnam. And I realized that in Vietnam, particularly, and everywhere actually, there's a lack of effective governmental support and effective policy making to support like this flourishing scene of art, and basically came to the conclusion that in order for art to fulfill its potential as a tool for social change, there needs to be more work in cultural policy making, and that is where I'm going to be doing my advanced work beyond Bennington, hopefully. So yeah, that's my journey through advanced work. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more from my friends, and have a good one.